All right, we are recording.
Okay. Well, I will call this one to order. For guests in the room, please use the sign-in sheet if you'd like to make public comment during our public comment section. And I will turn it back over to our board administrator for roll call.
Okay, Bill Gropp,
Here.
Jim Knight,
Present.
Sarah Lucas. Present. Steve Nagy,
Present.
Brian Prang,
Present.
Jeff Pritchard, let us know that he's on a fire. Is he excused?
Yes.
Thank you. And Catherine Stevens. Present. And that would be for roll call. We do have a floor.
All right. Thank you so much. We will move on to public comment, which is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Do we have some comment?
And it looks like, yes, we do.
Yes, that's.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Would you like me to stay here or move somewhere else?
Actually, if you wouldn't mind, and we have John Rasher.
Right.
And if you could stand right here, just this is the, I know, in front of everybody. Would be wonderful. Oh, and then please state your name and any affiliation or
Tell me when you're ready.
whenever we're ready.
All right. So my name's John Rasher and I'm a pilot here. I've been flying off the Medford Airport for right at 45 years. I'm a commercial fixed wing and rotor both and a 107 drone pilot. So I've got it all covered. A couple of things I wanted to talk about today is my history here on the airport. And I do a lot of backcountry flying. I was a county commissioner for a long time. During that time, I've made connections with a lot of people in Salem. Congressman Benz is a friend of mine. I hold him hostage. I have all of his campaign signs in my hand. Senator Golden down here is a friend of mine. A lot of people, my brother-in-law, Bruce Hanna, was co-speaker of the House for a while. So I have a lot of connections in politics. I'm embarrassed to say that, because I do a lot of backcountry flying, I got into search and rescue. And if you remember the Kim family that got lost on Bear Creek, I was the one that found them. Wow. And then the sheriff got a hold of me. Jackson County Sheriff wanted to know if I would join search and rescue. And I agreed naturally. And the problem was I didn't know that the Kim family was lost till I read it in the paper. So now as soon as someone's lost, they get hold of me. And I fly for 5 counties down here. I fly for Jackson, Josephine, Curry, Klamath. Sometimes I'll go to Douglas. Sometimes I go down into California, do Del Norte and Siskiyou County. Over the time, I found 44 people that were lost. I received a call from a pilot who is also a retired professor at SOU, and he wanted to know if I would talk at their retired professor's banquet. And I said, well, about the people I'd found. And I said, why would you want me to do that? And he says, we normally have somebody really academic and intelligent, and we wanted to change it this year. I said, I'm okay with that. So anyway, so I'm still flying, and I want to thank the board and the department for all of the backcountry strips. Well, I call them backcountry strips. The remote strips down here, they really helped me out. I've been to, I believe, I've flown over every strip in the state. I haven't landed at Alkali Lake in Rome. And that's something I was going to talk about. Those 2 strips, it probably doesn't cost much to maintain those, but I wouldn't mind. Well, pilots don't say decommission those airports, but if they don't serve a purpose, and then they cost the board, the state money, I really appreciate what's been done up at Prospect. I was one of the first planes that landed up there after they finished that. Now, I haven't been up there in a month or so, and so I don't know if the lights are in yet and the VASI, and I don't think they've done the parking area that I understand there was some money left over, so we're going to redo that up there. So that's great. I use that strip a lot. And I don't know if the board realizes the value of some of those strips. Medford gets fogged in a lot. So it's fogged in a lot. Pilots need somewhere to go. The first choice is Ashland because it's out of the fog, but sometimes it's in the fog. And then we look at Pinehurst or we look at Prospect. Those are really valuable airports for things like that. I did a oddball search back in the spring, way out in Harney County. for a girl named Kaylee Burt, which maybe you read about in the paper. She was finally located deceased, but I was right by McDermott. So McDermott was my backup airport. If I have a problem out there, I'm going to McDermott. So a concern that I have is when I look at the board membership, and if I take Oregon and draw a line straight across through Salem, through Eugene, I see no representation south of there. We used to have the airport manager in Klamath, John, he was on the board. Mike Burrell, Senior, who still lives here, he was on the board for a long time. But I'm somewhat concerned. Now, the board, I've noticed, is full of highly qualified airport managers, but sometimes airports have idiosyncrasies. I think it would be nice to have someone down here on the board that knew the ins and outs, that knew at Tokenie, we fight elk up there, we don't fight them, but we have to be real careful. And Prospect has deer problem. We used to land at Prospect at night, even though if it didn't have lights. If it's a moonlit light, you could find it. There's going to be more activity up there now at night. And so I don't know how the deer, I'd hate to have to put a fence around it. That'd be fairly expensive, you know. But some other little things, Chiloquin is closed, or the restaurant is closed. And so the use of Chiloquin airport has gone down. It's still a valuable airport. I use it quite a bit. When I search, I don't take spotters with me more because you get sick, you know. That's just what happens, you know, when you spin a lot of circles. When I used to search with a helicopter, we didn't have to do a lot of circles. So, but anyway, searching is fairly intense. So sometimes I just need to go land somewhere and take a break. And so Chiloquin is oftentimes I go if I'm up in the Cascades here. So when I talk about idiosyncrasies, for instance, I've spent some time at Pacific City and I know their parking's limited there, you know, and I don't know how many people know that, you know. So I think there should be a board member from down in this area. I don't think it can be me because I'm in the wrong political party. I've had an application in for at least 4 years now for the board. But I know that governor's staff is what looks at that, and they look and they see that I was a Republican county commissioner and some of the contacts that I have. So, but I'm sure there's some other pilot down here that would be happy to take on that role, you know, and it'd be a valuable position, just like I say, not from the business end of it, but just input on some of these smaller airports. So, anyone have any questions before I sit down?
Thank you for your input. I will tell you that the board makeup, we do have to look at regional. And I know there's one rule that said that there's got to be at least one member from east of the Cascades. And then also there has to be balanced political representation. So it's not just that you're a Republican or a Democrat. It's actually a bipartisan board, but it is in statute that we have to have a balanced representation.
Well, I know I was talking to Kathy McEwen, a former congresswoman, and she said, John, you should have put down you were not affiliated. That way. Okay, I'll be around if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sounds awesome. Thanks for everything you do.
Oh, sure.
Do we have any other?
Let's see, I don't see any raised hands. And so for anybody online who would like to make public comment, please, I've enabled the chat again. You can either type your name in the chat or use the raise hand function. We'll give you just a second here if you need it. Okay, and seeing none, that would conclude our public comment section. Okay, thank you.
Great. So we are, of course, here today at the Rogue Valley International Medford Airport, and Amber Judd, who is the airport director. Thank you for hosting us. And you had a few welcome remarks for us.
Sure. I'm really happy to have you all. Reached out a long time ago and said you'd like to have this in Medford, which I fully support, obviously. And I'm really happy to see you all and get to know some of you better. I know some of you. So we're really glad to have you here. We're a growing airport, like most of in the state. We're getting ready to do a terminal expansion. We've spent a lot of time, money, and effort on the airfield infrastructure over the last several years, and it's in really good shape out there. A couple small ones to go left, relatively small. And then we're turning our attention to terminal expansion. We'll talk about a lot more of that later on during the tour this afternoon, but really, really grateful that you all are here. And if you have any questions about Medford or our airport and what we do here, I'm happy to answer those. Thanks for being here.
so much. Amber and I actually belong to a fairly exclusive club. There are commercial service airports in the United States. Are usually around 16 to 17% are being led by women. And I think right now our count is about 24 nationwide out of about 520 airports. So yeah. Exclusive club.
Fairly exclusive.
Two in Oregon.
Yeah.
Two in the state. Yep. We're proud of that.
All right, very good. Thanks so much, Amber. And now we are moving on to the director's report. Kenji.
Yeah, so just as an update, I don't have a presentation for this section, but I tell you, it's been a heck of a number of months because I've been working on the Part 108 comments for not only the agency, but also for the National Association of State Aviation Officials. So to put this into context, that was 731 pages of reading, which was a little bit insane, but also worked with a number of other organizations, including a lot of 107 groups, as well as
Define section 108.
so 108 is the rules that were proposed by the FAA to enable beyond visual line of sight operations for drones, which will be perfect for search and rescue. That's one of the concept of operations. But it's been a long time in coming. A lot of folks in the industry have been looking forward to it, as folks in government as well, because what it will allow is routine operations for beyond visual line of sight, because normally you have to operate the drone within line of sight. The operator has to be able to see it. So that's coming. The comments are coming due in a couple of days, actually. But we also coordinated with entities like drone responders, as well as had conversations with VAI, which is formerly the Helicopters Association International, as well as the National Association of State Aviation Officials. Of course, we did that. And then a couple other groups as well. So there was a comprehensive group that got together and really talked about to make sure that we were all in alignment. And hold on, I'm going to cough this out. I'll be back in a second. I got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. I think I got that time. There, much better. Excuse me. So that took a lot of time. The other component, we'll get those submitted. And I was also just at the National Association of State Aviation Officials annual meeting. Unfortunately, I missed the one, and I so want to be there, Amber.
I forgive you.
Okay. We'll have to coordinate next year to make sure that they don't conflict. But it was fantastic meeting with my counterparts from all across the other states. And we also had great conversations about electrification, as well as some of the new technologies, as well as general aviation issues and then commercial airport issues as well. The interesting part on the electrification side, a lot of airports are getting into it. I know that, for example, Beta Aircraft came to Guam, and I heard that there was very good conversations that happened here. But there's a lot of benefits for it, not only for just the environment, but also the cost of operations much lower on these. So it becomes much more attractive for operators to conduct operations. But it also impacts the airport community, the communities around the airports, because again, it reduces pollution, and then it also changes noise dynamics too. So there's a lot of benefits for it, and hopefully you will, through the strategic plan that we're talking about, we'll be able to start looking at implementing some of these initiatives to start deploying that at these airports, or at least support those. So that happened. I think those two are the major things that have been happening at the agency. We've already had reports from Tony, so you've heard from him at the last board meeting, and Alex has presented before. A lot of things are going well at the agency. We're in a really good spot. Staff is happy. We're always striving to make sure that we're operating more efficiently as an agency. And hopefully folks have seen that, right? We made that huge effort for communications. Thank you, Alexis, for doing that. And if you haven't been receiving our newsletter, sign up, because if you're not signed up, you probably think that we're doing nothing, but we're actually doing a lot. Which, by the way, the Aurora runway rehab, was done on time and it looks great. And of course, recently Prospect happened, which is fantastic. And then Cape Blanco, we did a ribbon cutting as well. And it was great to have our legislators out there as well. We had Senator Brock Smith out there and then Representative Court Boyce. They came out and they were just tickled. It was great to hang out with them. Did that ribbon cutting, sent out that press release, and it was just fantastic. Yeah. And by the way, they're two of my favorite legislators, but don't tell all the other ones about that. But yeah, so that went really well. And I think that just about wraps up my director's update because I'd really like to spend a little bit more time on the strategic plan. All the board members should have received a copy of the mission, vision, and goals. So we'll sneak through these real quick, just as an overview and for folks online, just so you get to hear about it too.
Thanks, Kenji. And then I guess we'll just move right into the strategic plan.
Yep. All right. Oh, those transitions are yours, Alex, because I hijacked your PowerPoint and stuck myself into it. So this is the strategic plan request for adoption. Last update was in 2017, so that was 8 years ago. And as you can see,
Nope, sorry.
you're going too fast.
I'm going too quick. I'm trying to predict you. I can't.
So there was a lot of steps. We worked with a company called MCG out of Colorado, and they actually did Colorado strategic plan as well. So Dave Ulane recommended them, and we did a procurement. And they were the winners, and they did a number of tasks from project initialization to pestle analysis, SWOT analysis. And the board members were involved with the prospective gatherings as well. So all that happened. And then we eventually got to the draft goals, draft objectives, draft action plans, draft strategic plan. And here we are today to present the final strategic plan. Okay, next one. So here are some of the perspectives that we gathered. So Lane Community College, Business Oregon, Law Enforcement Drone Association, Wolverine Pacific Approach, Alama, Pendleton Airport, Medford, Portland Airport, Redmond, Newport, board members, and OPA as well. And then, so as you can see, it spanned a number of industries, user groups, and we tried to get as much information as we could from a variety of different perspectives. That's one. So some of the comments, right? One of the comments that we received was the mission should clearly reflect ODA's role in supporting and advancing Oregon's aviation network, focusing on economic development, safety, and innovation in aviation technologies. So we received a number that were along a similar line. So I took those into account. And then next slide, please. It's their mission statement. And Brian, thanks to you for distilling a lot of the stuff down, because originally we had a really long mission statement and Brian's like, no, we got to cut this down.
The rally cry, simple.
Yep. So what do? ODAV enables and advocates for a safe and efficient aviation system that connects communities and drives economic growth. All right. Safety is our number one priority. We really connect communities as well. And the aviation really helps drive economic opportunities throughout the state. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, whether that be educational opportunities, whether they be businesses, whether they be pilots visiting just for the day or so. It really has an impact locally. So that's why we came up with this mission statement. Next slide, please. So vision statement. ODA's vision is to be a leader in connecting and protecting communities through a resilient, sustainable, and technologically advanced aviation system that prepares Oregon for the future. This is really focusing on what's coming next. But at the same time, really thinking about how we sustain what exists today. That's super important. And this really talks about protecting communities as well. Like John, you mentioned earlier, you did search and rescue. That's about protecting communities. You think about what Jeff Pritchard is all about, wildfire, right? A lot of our airports serve as bases for wildfire fighting, and will serve as an important locations after a Cascadia subduction zone event. So that's where it talks about resiliency and protection, right? And then really anticipating what's coming. Not being on the bleeding edge, we can let other states do that, but really making sure that we are in line with what is happening across the United States so we don't fall behind. And then sustainable, that also encompasses funding sustainability, right? Because we want to make sure that we can pay for our needs and do it in a way that, as my Republican friends would say, that give a good return on investment, right? And is used in a responsible manner. So this is what this vision statement encompasses. All right. Next slide, please. So we also have to work by a set of values. Safety and operational excellence. So whether that be safe runways, et cetera, we should strive to have the highest standards of safety and really conduct ourselves where we operate very well. And I think as an agency, we've been proving that out. And our job is to really create a system that's safe, secure, and efficient. Not only for pilots, but also other system users, the public, and our employees as well. So that's why we have that there. Integrity and accountability. Whatever happens, our job is to be completely transparent in all our dealings. Because my perspective is if we're not transparent, it's going to come back and bite us. If we try to hide the ball, that's not a way to operate. If there's backroom deals, that's going to come up to the surface and we're going to get nailed for it. So everything that we do takes into consideration, making sure we are transparent and people know what we're doing. Because trust is hard to gain from everybody, but it's super easy to lose. So that's why it's important to us. Sustainability and stewardship. We're committed to environmental responsibility and promoting sustainable practices and stewarding Oregon's natural and aviation resources for future generations. Because we're not going to be around in 50 years. Well, some of us might be in 50 years. Well, that's really around in 50 years. But a lot of us won't. And it's really to leave a legacy for them, right? Of an aviation system that's functional and it's environmentally responsible. And it's sustainable economically as well. The next one is collaboration and partnership. We build strong relationships with stakeholders, including airports, aviation system users, communities, and state agencies. Because when you get a diverse set of ideas from multiple different people, we come up with better ideas. We can figure out ways to save money. We can figure out ways to leverage public-private partnerships. We know ODAV isn't the best at everything, but there are partners that we can partner with that have that expertise. I mean, for example, AAAE, they're wealth of knowledge, right? OPA, they're wealth of knowledge. OAMA, wealth of knowledge. And trying to figure out what best practices that they use and what we can adopt by them. Great, let's do it. Let's work together to make things good. And then customer focus. We are working on this. We're dedicated to providing exceptional service to all aviation system users and beneficiaries, addressing their needs promptly and effectively with professionalism and care. Now, like I said, this is a work in progress, right? Part of that is trying to work with what we have. And it also means trying to advocate for adequate staff to do what we need to do. And that was one of the core things that came out of the listening sessions. Yeah. You don't have that much money. So, but we need to find ways to do it so we can provide better customer service, be more efficient, and address people's needs as they come up. Okay. So education and advocacy. And I think this is one area that we haven't been doing, which we really need to do, is work with educational institutions more. Also support STEM education. Also work as a coordinator for all these different education programs. That's going to take money. So hopefully we'll be able to work through that as part of a funding solution. And then also part of that education is also that communication to outward facing communication. And we're always working on that. And then advocating and letting people know what we actually do. That's why I tell Alexis, every time and every opportunity I have, you have the most important job in the agency. Because I sound like a broken record, but if you're not communicating what you're doing, everybody thinks you're doing nothing. So we're doing that. Okay, next slide. Some more comments. Recurring theme was that ODAV is under-resourced with limited staff, making it difficult to fully leverage opportunities and maintain infrastructure. ODAV is seen as instrumental in driving economic growth for aviation, particularly by supporting local airports and fostering public-private partnerships. So, next slide. We come to goal number 1. So this is a slight change from the earlier version because we got direction from the governor's office. Don't ask for more money. It's legislative session. They were very clear on that. I was like, dang it. So I had some great ideas, but so a lot of our goals have been moved by 1 year. So by December 2026, we will identify, advocate, and pursue long-term stable funding mechanisms that will increase annual funding by at least 100%. And the reason why we have 100% is because our operations rate has not increased since 1955. And I think I've beaten that into the legislators' heads enough. So they got the message. So objective 1.1, collaborate with the public and aviation community to build consensus for new funding sources. Okay. So again, working with like the Port of Portland, working with OPA, working with Eugene, working with Medford, and all different types of folks to come up with creative ideas on how to sustainably fund the agency and the aviation system. If you want, I have a copy of this, too.
I'm good.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Objective 1.2, propose legislation with board approval until passed to increase Oregon's aviation fuel tax and diversify revenue sources, ensuring funding reflects the needs of emerging aviation users and technologies and keeps pace with inflation and supports core services. And I want to thank both Catherine, Chair Stevens, as well as Steve, you too, for making sure that we run this by the board so we don't run afoul of anything weird. So that's the main operation, is making sure that we also have board input into any suggestions or proposals for funding. Objective 1.3, and I think this is one of the most core pieces that we need to do as an agency. Conduct and publish a statewide aviation economic impact study by January 2027 to support advocacy for funding mechanisms and demonstrate the return on investment of public aviation infrastructure. Now we have a certain airport manager from Ben, she might be on right now, who's been bugging me about this, but as part of this goal, I'm pleased to announce that we will be putting out an RFP shortly for an economic impact study to update the aviation system plan, which means I'm going to need all your help.
Yeah.
Of course you will.
How long has it been since that's happened?
2017.
There's an update in 2017, but there, I believe the last one was 2007, right? The full plan, and there was.
I mean, 2017 is.
2017.
I'm aware. It's not pretty outdated.
Yeah,
It definitely is due for an update.
yeah. Yes.
No, I'm certain that most of us as commercial service airports understand or at least gather data on our economic impacts. So that's certainly something that we would want to feed to you all. But I would highly recommend, especially since the last one was done
Pre-COVID.
8 years ago and the industry is changing so much. We have industries like yours that are here in Oregon now.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're capturing those.
Yes.
Kind of non-tradition, I shouldn't say non-traditional, but the emerging aviation industries in Oregon that are going to really drive some of those numbers as well.
100%. 100%. Because there's so many ancillary,
I wouldn't call that ancillary. That's critical to
Well,
aviation nowadays.
there's the new technologies as well as the ancillaries that we might have
Yes.
not captured in the past as well. So support, there's companies that supply Boeing, there's companies that supply in situ, whether that be, for example, carbon fiber companies. They all actually have an impact, and right, they do service the aviation industry, and we should capture that.
Industries like Ericsson right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those.
100%. So that's objective 1.3. Objective 1.4 is work with private industry to stand up a 501c3 entity by June 2027 to facilitate public-private partnerships and collaborative funding mechanisms. Right, Brian? So we definitely need to assist with that because that's when Aravi went by the wayside, we don't have a partner in this. And looking at other states, looking at Utah, looking at Massachusetts, looking at a lot of successful states, they have great partnerships. And I think having that organization is going to be absolutely critical to advance aviation in our state and industry as well. Objective 1.5, procure and implement a new aircraft and UAS registration database by June 2027 to improve data accuracy, compliance tracking, and administrative efficiency. Our software's outdated, really outdated. Some of it's spreadsheet based. Some of it doesn't work very well. It's like how our website used to be before Alexis, we put Alexis on it. And we need new tools to really make sure that we're providing the best customer service, right? And we're accurate in what we do. There's still some gaps there, but this will be a great way to sort of hit it. Okay, goal 2. Members highlight the need for both forward-thinking innovation and maintaining the current aviation system, which includes adequately funded airports and resilient infrastructure. While innovation is important, ODA's mission must continue focusing on maintaining essential infrastructure and offering financial resources. Next slide. And I think this really speaks to supporting our airports, whether they be state-owned, whether they be owned by cities, whether they be owned by counties, whether they be owned by ports. It's really important that we help. One of the biggest issues that we see is that there's going to be an earthquake. There's already fires that happen in a lot of areas as well. So we want to look at, by December 2027, developing and implementing a statewide airport resiliency program that enhances emergency preparedness, strengthens disaster recovery capabilities, and integrates aviation-specific contingency planning in partnerships with Oregon's emergency management agencies. We've already kicked this off. So we've already been meeting with emergency management. We had an aviation summit already. And it's making sure we push that forward to make sure we do the adequate planning on that. And then also, there was a resiliency report that was put out. Everybody remember that? We really need to make sure that there's adequate resources to fund that, to make sure that we have the right equipment in the right places, especially on the coast, and parts of the valley as well, in case there's a cascading subduction zone event. Or even if there are wildfires, making sure we have the right things in the right places. Objective 2.2, deploying low-cost, high-impact aviation-related sensors at 5% of Oregon state-owned public use airports by December 2027 to enhance safety, monitoring, and operational efficiency. So imagine this, okay? You're on one of the backcountry airports, right? And you don't know what conditions are. You might know there might be an AWOS around here, but out there, you don't know. So weather sensors, right? So weather sensors is a low cost, easy way to provide data to pilots. And that could be leveraged in the future to supply data to drones, as well as advanced air mobility. These are easy wins. There's potential for installing ADS-B sensors, right? So we know under a certain altitude, FAA coverage, surveillance coverage sort of stinks. They've admitted as much in the Part 108 NPRM. So if we can help supplement that data that could potentially get sent to ForeFlight or ingested by the FAA, and it's cheap and easy and increases safety, why not? Okay. Objective 2.3, initiate a statewide airport sustainability deployment by 2028 with 2 pilot airports adopting renewable energy or sustainable building practices. So this deals with electrification. That was a hot topic. Just thinking about not only for aircraft, but think about ground infrastructure. Think about your ground vehicles, right? Decrease the cost of operation at airports. So just thinking about how we do that. Objective 2.4, explore acquisition or development of new aviation infrastructure. Vertiports, formalize at least one public-private airport stewardship partnership by December 2029.
29,
2029. Yes.
20.
It's far in the future. It's that's only 4 years away. So, Jim, just think about this. This is only explore, right?
My question came, what was delivered was by December 2028.
Yeah. So I noted at the beginning of the presentation, because the governor said,
Gotcha.
Kenji, I can't find my notes from what I had submitted when you had sent these around as draft, but I think it was in this one here, especially in this objective. I understand the desire to move to the next level, to renewable energy as the source in that, but we have a transition that'll need to go forward, obviously. And so I think there was a comment, and I think it was year in 2.3 about unleaded avgas. And I don't think it made it in, but I think that it is part of safety. It is part of innovation. It is part of the transition. And so it's someplace, from my own perspective, I would like to see that somehow included as one of the objectives from a statewide initiative to try and include or incentivize or assist airports as they try to make that transition, because it's coming by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
If you believe, and the FAA hasn't changed that mandate, and there is still, potential litigation. So 2020 or 2030 is the date that everybody is looking at. And
Yeah.
I really think it does need included as some level of goal and call out.
do you think we should do it specifically, or do you think it could be put into the sustainable airport sustainability development?
I think it could be in there, but you specifically call out renewable energy, sustainable building practices. I think there should be some initiative to call about transition of unleaded fuels in there as well.
Okay.
Just be like, alternative fuels and sustainable.
Yeah, something like that, but something that people know and understand that there's an initiative to assist that transition.
Okay. So we can add that as an amendment.
I was trying to find my notes and I can't find them.
Kenji, I just wanted to ask you
Sure.
the funding source for that. Are you thinking you'll be reliant on federal funding for some of that initiative? And I ask that because I just lost a federal grant because it was energy focused and they are not funding it.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, I think we're all in a position where it's like, we don't know where the funding's coming from, right? I mean, that might be a conversation we have with the legislature. It might be a conversation that we have with the FAA. So I think that topic definitely needs to be explored. And this is why this is an objective, right?
But I want to make sure we're hitting realistic timelines. I know you've adjusted timelines already. But, you know, I lost $400,000 for an initiative that would provided some redundancy. It's a very teeny tiny project, but it's some redundancy and it was nixed.
I think what would be helpful for all of our airports and our customers if we had some type of a document that examined the probability of the loss of revenues from avgas. And we're making this transition into renewable energies and the fuels of different, it's going to be cheaper. But what I haven't seen is when does this progression really begin?
Mhm.
And at what point are we in serious trouble because there is no other funds available to our airports, to the agency, except for the fuel tax?
Yeah.
So when does this become a serious issue? It's good that we recognize that this is a probable item, but we don't really see, well, when is this going to hit us in 3 years? Is it going to hit us in 10 years? I think that would be really helpful if we had a target of, we've got to stay on track of identifying resources that's going to replace what we're going to lose.
Yeah, and you're totally right. So this isn't just an Oregon problem, right?
Yeah.
This is a national program.
Right.
And these are some of the questions that we're exploring as part of the Advanced Air Mobility Multi-State Collaborative that I've mentioned a number of times, which is now up to, I think, 36 or 37 states plus the Choctaw Nation. But this is one of the fundamental pieces of how to pay for stuff, right? What sort of economic model do we need to explore with operators and OEMs to pay for a lot of this stuff? But it's also that conversation about as efficiency increases, as the funding mechanism change, as there's more uncertainty on the federal side in terms of funding, how do we start filling it? And it's again, it's a work in progress, and it's a tough sort of conversation to be had, right? Because to be upfront, unless you're a commercial service airport that has general aviation airports are normally not revenue positive.
Mhm.
So how do we create a structure that we can support the aviation system, right? In a sustainable fashion. So again, that's one of the ideas behind the trying to figure out sustainable funding mechanisms as well. So that's part of the sustainable conversation.
Yeah, I'm worried about that point in time when we're going to get hit. Airports will be hit with you're going to lose your revenue.
Yeah.
And here's the impact of the loss of that revenue to your airport.
And that might be a good topic for a study in terms of sustainable aviation fuel as well. And what are the economic impacts of it? So that's a great topic. All right. Let's see, where are we at? So 2.5. Assess and update the pavement maintenance program by June 2028 to guide future infrastructure funding needs and investment strategies. PMP has been a great program to provide pavement maintenance to a lot of public use airports throughout the entire system, and just figuring out how to update that program. Okay, next slide. So comments, Oregon's land use laws and other state policies were noted as hindrance to ODAV's ability to implement necessary infrastructure upgrades and expand aviation operations. Oregon's aviation-related laws, particularly around land use, were seen as inadequate to meet modern aviation needs. Next slide. So we're hoping by December 2030, we'll make updates to airport guidance, policies, rules, standards, agreements, and the Oregon Aviation Plan to ensure compliance with FAA guidelines and prioritizing mechanisms. Now, the land use compatibility guidebook is pretty old. I thought it was typewritten, but I guess not. I think it was word
2003. 2003.
what is Windows 95?
Word perfect.
I think the world was a little bit different in aviation in 2003. So it's time for an update, right? So that's when our goal is to update it by June 2029. There's no mention of drones. There's no mention of the many, many changes that have happened. And we need to account for that. One of the reasons why we haven't done it so far, it's a heavy lift. And an expensive lift.
I was going to ask, are you looking at consultant assistance with something like this?
It's on our CIP for 2028.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it's going to take money, time, and effort. So that's there. And then objective 3.2, update ODAF policies, rules, and minimum standards by December 2028 to assure alignment with industry trends and community expectations. So that's just taking a look at our policies and rules and making sure that they're updated, applicable. The board has already gone through this exercise with the movable obstructions counted in our KPMs. So it's just doing that a little bit deeper dive. Objective 3.3, update at least 2 chapters of the Oregon Aviation System Plan by December 2027 to include resiliency, sustainability, and advanced technology planning. We're already planning on doing that 1 chapter for the economic impact. That's part of the sustainability as well. So we just need to do another chapter update. And then objective 3.4, establish a scalable framework for through the fence agreements by June 2027 to balance growth with operational oversight. Personally, I think through the fence operations are a good thing. I know that, they can be a good thing. They just have to be managed correctly. So just taking a deep dive into that. Objective 3.5, by December 2029, collaborate with the Oregon Department of Land Conservation Development and local jurisdictions to develop training and templates to improve local integration of aviation land use planning requirements. Because I think a lot of MPOs are like a little bit clueless. They're not experts in aviation. And the more tools that we can give them and the more information we can give them, especially with airport layouts and restrictions on height, building height, et cetera, and land use, the more guidance we give them, the better. Because the more we prepare them, the less likely there will be conflicts, right? Like 1, please don't build an apartment building right off the end of the way. All right, goal 4. Comments, the website and communication systems were citing as needing improvement to increase transparency and public engagement. There was also mention of inadequate communication and outreach to legislators and the public, hindering awareness of ODAV's importance in securing necessary support. Negative public perception, especially around aviation noise and environmental impact, could hinder the agency's effort to gain broader support. It's highlighted the need for an increased presence, including the update of the website to share information and education pilots community. I can't say enough. Alexis, you are the key person in all this. By December 2027, ODAV will develop a comprehensive communication plan, including a social media strategy and outreach, with a goal of achieving a 50% increased recognition and engagement as measured through survey analytics data. We got to become influencers. We have a TikTok account?
We can't have one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, ODOT does not allow us to have a
Oh,
TikTok.
we can't? Come on.
I know.
Maybe if it becomes an American company.
Maybe then.
Yeah, maybe then. Now, who's subscribed to our Facebook page? Down you are? Yes. All right. Instagram. Oh, come on. That's the one thing. Instagram's awesome. That's another great thing. We post pretty pictures and what we're doing. And our goal is to increase sort of people who follow us, just so they get interested in aviation, right? And they know what's going on. And it's not all a bad thing. There's a lot of good things that happen. So with that, objective 4 on optimize customer experience by integrating digital communication tools such as real-time updates and resource libraries into ODAV's web and social media presence by June 2027. So it's just getting information out there in a timely manner in an easily digestible format. With people's attention spans getting shorter and shorter and people having less and less time to read stuff. The more you can present stuff that's easy, the better it is. Objective 4.2, elevate ODAV's identity and value proposition through a targeted communications campaign by June 2027 that distinguishes the agency's impact and leadership role. Alexis, you're already doing this stuff, right? So it's just working on it a little bit more. Objective 4.3, leverage digital analytics to track user engagement, improve messaging, and guide content strategy beginning in June 2027. This is using analytics to drive social media engagement and also increase the number of people that we reach. Now, I'm not just talking about the airport community or pilots. I want this to be popular as say TAC Aero. And if you haven't seen their aviation page, it's absolutely amazing. And thank you for letting us use some of your photos, by the way.
Yeah, happy to do so.
Yeah. And then objective 4.4, develop an annual stakeholder engagement calendar by June 2027, including listening sessions, regional town halls, and virtual briefings to expand ODAV's visibility and accessibility statewide. So this is just getting out in the community saying hi, right? Because it's much harder to get angry at people that you actually know. And it's much easier to get frank feedback, right? If there's a problem, they know who to talk to. We want to do that. Objective 4.5, work with the general aviation community to create a flying interest program by December 2027 to generate excitement around use and benefit of Oregon's general aviation airports. General aviation has sort of been on the downswing. Well, it's expensive. And if there's ways to gain more excitement around general aviation, get more people involved, interested in aviation, let's do it. Right? If it gets people out to these small rural communities where they can actually have an economic impact for tourism related purposes, let's do it.
Top Gun flight school for 172s.
Oh, Bill. A lot. It's kind of crazy because back in my travel Oregon days, I did a lot of traveling throughout the state, and we'd visit these tiny little towns, and we all pile into this small little restaurant. We overwhelm them sometimes, right? It's like, oh my goodness, 5, 6 more people come in than usual. But they made it in one day what they usually make in a week. And it makes a difference to these small communities. So if we can increase that, get more interest in these airports, the better. So next slide, please. Emerging technologies like UAS, advanced air mobility, and electrification of aircraft present significant opportunities for growth, innovation, and increased relevance for ODAV. A vision to keep Oregon at the forefront of aviation technology, supporting advancements like AM and drone technology. So these were some of the comments. So next slide. So goal 5. By December 2027, ODAV will develop and launch statewide uncrewed aircraft systems in an advanced air mobility framework and program supporting economic research and educational opportunities with at least 3 public or private sector entities. We're behind the ball on this. A lot of other states have already done studies. A lot of them. So we're just catching up to the rest of the states in the nation. Okay. So our objective is objective 5.1, introduce, educate, and work with the Oregon Legislature and Governor's Office on Aviation, AM, and UAS to encourage attendance to at least one national AM UAS event by December 2027. Trying to remember. Bill, remember the first time you went to Exponential?
Yeah.
Wasn't that mind blowing?
We should all be going.
We should all be going.
Okay.
Because unless you visit and understand what's going on and visiting a conference or a trade show, it's just a concept. It's not real. But as soon as you see it in real life, you're like, wait a second. There's something there. And to be able to take policymakers there, they get invested, they get excited. And once they get that excitement, it carries over into carrying our message to the rest of the legislature, getting the governor's office out there. There's some folks there that are like drones. I have no clue, right? But if we can help educate them, take them places and show them and show them the technology, they might go, oh, wow, this is a sector that maybe we should invest in, whether that be through Business Oregon or helping fund the agency. Objective 5.2, by July 2027, launch a 2 to 3 year pilot project to stand up a drone program to support state enterprise drone operations, including training, operations oversight, as well as supporting public safety and interagency missions. So the reason why this comes up, I'll tell you, the other state agencies, most of them have no clue how to use drones correctly. One state agency, which shall remain unnamed, oh, we want to fly here. Me, what? You can't do that. And I said, I'll come out with you. This is how to do it properly. You can fly under my waiver. Okay, we did that. And then I had conversations with the folks over at ODOT. Did you know we have no uniform training policies throughout the state enterprise for how to use drones or how to procure drones? Yeah, I know that. Let's figure something out. So that's that's part of that. And then also, I was talking to board member Jeff. How about this? We look at standing up a drone program at the state at ODAF to service all the other state agencies who have no clue on how to do stuff. So we know how to do it. We can make it a revenue generation model. So that's why that goal is there, right? Objective 5.3, enable beyond visual line of sight operations in 4 operational areas by July 2028 and begin phased deployment of digital and physical infrastructure to support AAM and UAS operations. I touched on this briefly before. If you take a look at some of this digital infrastructure, it's going to support general aviation, increased aviation speed. And then if we can leverage that for drone operations and things that are coming up, especially under Part 108, let's do it, especially if it's low cost. And this aligns with our application for the Beyond Phase 2 program with the FAA, which I'm editing right now and will be resubmitting this week, hopefully. But there'll be nobody on the other end reading it because of shutdown, but go figure. It'll be okay. They're already excited about us entering that program. And then Objective 5.4, establish your UAS work group by August 2027, including that 501c3 we talked about earlier, to develop innovative pilot projects to demonstrate the potential of emerging technologies. Long time ago, in a land not far away in Salem, we did used to have a UAS work group that went bye-bye. So key component of that is finding a legislator who's actually interested in this aviation and technologies. And I voluntold two of the folks that I already talked about, the legislators, Senator Rock Smith and Court Boyce, and voluntold them that they're going to create an aviation caucus. They got a kick out of that. But I think that's a key component is just making sure we have that group together. To be honest, I think the concept that we were talking about, Ryan, earlier, that public-private partnership, 501c3 could help lead that as well. And then objective 5.5, by September 2027, launch a 2 to 3 year pilot project to support aviation education by partnering with schools, nonprofits, agencies, and industries to support workforce development. Now, I've been telling our governor's policy advisor, hey, can we look at like some seed money to hire an education coordinator? Because that's what they do in Oklahoma. If you look at their program, it's outstanding. They are in so many high schools. They have thousands of kids going through the program, and they're finding good paying jobs. So if we can do the same thing, yes. Oh, lunch is here. How's my timing?
It's good. Yes, you're good.
I'm good?
Yeah.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry. Are the board members okay with me talking so much?
I appreciate you giving context to
Yeah.
all the concepts.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then it's that excitement that can be built, right? And I keep on talking about getting kids excited. My kids are excited. My son's totally excited about aviation. So anything that we can do to support the kids getting into aviation, I think we should do. Objective 5.6. By December 2027, develop and publish an emerging aviation technology roadmap that outlines infrastructure, policy, regulatory framework, equity, economic development. Oh, this one's a long one. Aerospace funding and environmental considerations to foster innovation in the manufacturing, use, and deployment of UAS, AM, and alternative propulsion system state. So that's part of a new technologies study. Okay. Creating a roadmap, figuring out what assets we have, figuring out pathways forward, what infrastructure is going to need to happen. A lot of this is also going to be driven by the NPRM, the Part 108. So it's just taking a more holistic look at the entire ecosystem and look at what's necessary to foster this. So let's go 5.6. All right, next slide. That's all our goals, by the way.
Can I
Yes.
add, Kenji, that that's highly detailed and very prescriptive compared to some of the others. So yeah, I think that's good, but I think there's some others that could use that level of detail in them. The other is, and again, not to pick on emerging industries, but if you are trying to be financially self-sufficient,
Yeah.
and in objective 1.2, you talk about aviation fuel tax. And as Jim said, you know, as we transition, same thing with cars, as we transition to alternative energy, the fuel taxes revenues either start to decrease or they stabilize at a level and don't. And in there you have diversified revenue resources. I really think you have to look at if this is an emerging industry in Oregon and it has great benefit to the state, you need to figure out a way to, without stifling innovation and stifling development, to find a way to monetize that, to also support the board's efforts to do these the agency's very specific efforts to do that.
Yeah.
Because funding it with fuel taxes is not going to be something that most others find amenable.
Yeah, and I think it's a mix, right? Whether it be fuel taxes, whether it be private equity, whether it be general fund, that's all part of that exploration as well,
Maybe
right?
public-private partnerships, yeah, any of that stuff. But, you know, I think you need to look at this in conjunction with also how you're looking at diversifying revenue streams and finding ways that the different components of the aviation system, whether they be manufacturing, whether they be unmanned systems, whether they be manned aircraft systems, whether they be commercial, whether they be general aviation, that they bring their own, at least some of their weight in the funding of the agency and the initiatives that you want to do.
Now, if you can you pop us back up to goal 1?
You mentioned it in goal one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it's not mentioned with any level of specificity like some of the goal 5 specific goals are.
I think the specificity that it was a lot was driven by the learnings from the listening sessions as well as
Okay.
the back and forth. So that's how that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in 1-2, diversify revenue resources,
Mhm.
or revenue sources. I just want to go on record as saying that that's a big component, not just the aviation fuel tax.
Yes, yes.
Speaking from the subset that worked on all these things and tried to put our arms around it, we had variable levels of clarity on a lot of it, and knowing that there's a priority on the revenue sources, but in this case, we don't have great ideas on how to wrap our arm around those future fee structures, but it is a focus, and others are just more mature objectives because we have more clarity in those paths.
And I think it aligns with objective 1.1, right? Collaborate together and to figure out what will work, because it's the sustainability pieces that we got to think of new ways to do this. It's the way things are changing, the way things are operating right now. It's not going to work. We need to figure out ways to do it.
Yeah.
And there's other states that the legislature has seen aviation as a priority and allocated a lot of general fund to it. And a part of that is messaging the return on investment.
And that might be a good path forward, or at least a path forward.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But again, my thoughts are if we can do a mix. So if one dries up, we don't go belly up, and because I think a diversified, it's like your retirement portfolio, right? Diversified is better. You don't put all your eggs into one stock, which would be a very bad idea. So those are the thoughts around that too. Yeah, but Steve, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I hear you.
I really like what's been put together. Particularly the items, like Steve is saying, some of the objectives are very specific. And how would you know whether or not we've reached the objective? It's easier to do when you've got some dates and times when that's supposed to happen. But on some of the other objectives, or even in the value statements, how do we know that we're not living up to our own standards? What measurements would we take? I'll give you an example. Integrity and accountability. ODAV operates with transparency, ethical decision-making, and accountability to the public we serve, ensuring trust and confidence in our actions. It's a wonderful statement, and I think that we should espouse to that. But how do we know that we're not? The only times when we really know that we're not, we get communication from a few individuals within the state that said you're not living up to these things, or we're going to be sued by somebody, and we get notifications that we haven't lived up to our own statements. So I don't know the answer to the questions that I'm asking, but how do we know that we're really doing this strategic plan and meeting the goals that we set for ourselves, particularly in the items that are real subjective?
So going back, step back to the values.
Is that towards the beginning of
It's a very
the?
big
So those are the values that we strive for. There are no KPMs associated with it, but there are some that we already do as an organization. So there are mandated KPMs that you've all seen in terms of customer satisfaction, et cetera. So those can be used as a metric, but there's really no metric in terms of collaboration and partnership or sustainability and stewardship. These are things that we try to adhere to as an agency, rather than something that can be measured and things we'd like to do. So that's why they're value statements rather than goals themselves.
And I would just add to that and say, generally, mission statement, value statements are aspirational.
Yeah.
And it's when you get into the objectives, is where it gets more specific.
Sure.
That it's trackable. And we do have our board KPIs that we check in on it every year. And so, I mean, you can get more granular from the, what's forward is to the objectives again, because you can actually take those, and I would encourage staff to take those and then get more granular and go into tasks from those objectives. And I'm sure that's what's next.
Yep. That is definitely what's next. Okay. What page are we on?
We're trying to get to the objective.
That's the same. I already.
I think we're toward almost to the end.
Here we go.
Yeah. So next slide. So this was what I was going to put in terms of request that the board adopt the strategic plan as presented, but I'd say the board adopt a strategic plan with the amendment that Steve, that you mentioned to add unleaded or sustainable fuels to which goal was that?
2-3.
There's two, three.
With the amendment to add sustainable fuels to 2-3. But before we get to that, I actually want to show you the pretty version.
Well, actually, Alex had different alternative fuels.
Okay.
Alternative fuels is better than sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get to that, Alexis, could you pull up the pretty version that I sent over?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is actually the pretty version that AMCG just sent over last night. It covers the exact same thing. So this is the strategic plan. You have your cover letter. Next slide, next page. Just a letter from me. Mission, vision, values, same exact thing. Goals, the track exactly the same. Okay. Next, why plan? Why do we have strategic plan? Just as a tool, communication tool, management tool, etc. And then how we got here, just the entire process. SWOT analysis, the PESTLE analysis. Just a brief description of our Oregon airport system. That's an overview. Division management and staff, although I might ask them to change division to department. Roles and responsibilities. All of you. Roles and responsibilities. Did some of the pages repeat?
No.
Oh, no, this was SWOT analysis. The picture that's used for the process, and okay, this is the SWOT, some of the comments that came in. Mission again. Vision. Values, deeper. Okay. Then deeper, this is the objectives within the goals. No changes. 3, 4, 5. Just some statistics. Number of airports, NIPIS airports. Commercial service, that's it.
Is there a table of contents at the beginning? I didn't catch that.
Yes.
I didn't turn my head fast enough. There we go. Okay, thanks.
So that is actually Cascade Locks Airport. Do you recognize that one? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Wait for Jim. There you are.
So would it be helpful for us as a board of our objectives that we highlight the ones that really are measurable? So that we're on track of keeping track of what it is that we have set for ourselves to do it's really nice to be able to check that one off the list because we've done that. And we could go, I don't want us to go through all of those again and say which ones are measurable, but yeah, I guess I would certainly feel better if we had some guideposts of either when are we going to check into these objectives and see if we're on track, when to do that.
Yeah, we can check in on them yearly. I mean,
What I would suggest is that we actually, that we put this out on a motion to include the revision of, was it
Goal 2.3.
2.3?
Yeah.
And change division to departments.
Mhm.
And then under a separate motion, we direct staff to provide KPIs on this for us.
I kind of, sorry, can I? This being when we're the mayor and we had vision statements for our city and everything, it wasn't so much that we were trying to push a metric too nebulous. What we did was we said, here's all the actions that the city is doing, and this meets this vision goal. This thing we're doing,
Connecting.
this connects to this vision goal, this
Yeah.
connects to this vision goal, and we did it more that way so that you could see all the actions we were doing were part of this vision or that vision. Is not really a metrics just become nebulous numbers that have no meaning, right? And then it presents an argument. But just showing that what you're doing, and we do this in education too, where we're saying, okay, this is what we're doing with our curriculum and it matches to this vision statement or this goal. And that's more mapping that it should be done than it is trying to create some fictitious number that has no value. Right? So that's my opinion. That's what we do in education and in municipal governance.
I've seen that actionized really well in something like a director's report where you've summarized activities and you'll say, hey, these things were in pursuit of goal 4 in these ways. So it's kind of like a summary of overall departmental activities that map it.
Right.
And
all the work we're doing is to achieve our goals that we adopted.
which I prefer more than numbers.
It's a better way of controlling our actions.
perfect.
And I didn't think of this until just now. So I agree with both of you. Yeah, especially with the director's report, mapping it back to the goal and the specific objective and where we stand on that. But you can also kind of, for a shorthand, either you want to put it in here or as you go forward in talking about this, goal 1 is really financial. Goal 2 is infrastructure. Goal 3 is policy or is airports. It's all about airports. Goal 3. Goal 4 is communications and outreach, and goal 5 is, emerging industry, emerging. So you can say like, hey, these are the areas that we're without going through all the details of each goal. We're focused on our financial health. We're talking about statewide resiliency. We're talking about the airports that are part of our portfolio of infrastructure. We need to communicate that to our members as well as to the state and to residents of the state. And we're really looking at emerging and advancing technologies. And I think you can, and that's your elevator pitch. If you want to add those to the goals as a name, otherwise you can use it in a shorthand as you move forward. But I think that's really helpful as well.
Steve, I think that's a mic drop moment.
It's really good.
Okay.
Super awesome.
Comments from board members. We'll ask that somebody put forward a motion that includes those 2 small tweaks. Strategic plan.
I'll move that the board adopt the presentation of the strategic plan with the change of alternative fuels and what was the other one again? I forgot. The department, and changing the word to department instead of division as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second, is there any discussion? Okay, and then I will ask Alexis for the roll call.
Bill Groff,
Aye.
Jim Knight,
aye.
Sarah Lucas. Aye. Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Frank,
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard is excused, and Catherine Stevens.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. Nice job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations. Good job.
Great, that's a huge amount of work.
Thank you very much.
Planning exercise.
Can I say something, Chair Stevens? I just want to say thank you to all of you for everything that you do and all the input that you've had, and the folks online too, who've been involved in this. The agency doesn't operate on its own. It requires everybody to be part of this entire process. And now we have a document that's going to fundamentally guide us. And then we can point to the governor's office and the legislature and say, hey, look what we're doing now. Now you don't have something outdated. It's actually current, applicable, and that we can work on together. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Y'all are awesome.
Kudos to you and to staff. I know that was a lot of work, but I think the end result is really positive, and I think it will be a good guiding document moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to our finance manager update with Kristen.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so today you are going to be voting on the 25-27 legislatively adopted budget. And so I'll do a summary of that before we vote. And you also did get the legislatively adopted budget document in your read-aheads. And so here is a summary of the budget development. And I just wanted to highlight the board's involvement in the process. So in July of 2024, the board voted for policy option packages. And then in August of 2024, the board voted for our legislative concept. And then the board also reviewed our agency request budget at the time. And then in February of 2025, the board reviewed our governor's budget. And then, of course, the budget went through the legislative session. And we started executing on the budget July 1st of 2025, and it's a 2-year budget. Then it did have to still go through our audit. And now we are at the board vote now in October. So now I'm going to go through a summary of the budget before we vote on it. So this is what the budget looks like by program. So as you can see, it's about $45.8 million. And the program areas are capital construction, aircraft registration, pavement maintenance program, aviation system program, operations, and general aviation entitlement. And I'll go over the individual projects that make up the capital construction and also the general aviation entitlement. So here's a summary of the revenues that went into this budget. So 50% of it is federal funds from the FAA. 38% is fuel tax. And so that's jet fuel, avgas, and mode gas tax. And so 95% of that is jet fuel tax. We also received a grant from Connect Oregon in this budget for Oak Ridge, so that made up 5%. And then all the other revenue sources were aircraft registration, rents and royalties, sale incomes, and then there's some other small revenues that also go into that. This is our org chart. So our org chart actually did not change at all from the last budget. So we still have 15 positions, and those are all permanent positions. And so this is our planning division, state airports division, finance and administration, and then the director, governor's office, and then the board is also on our org chart. These are the packages that made up our budget. And so I'll go into more detail of all of the packages that were included in the budget. I also did want to note a couple of them that didn't make it into the budget. So we had policy option package 101 that the board did vote on and approve for the commercial UAS insurance, but that did not make it through the session. And then we also had a legislative concept to remove the fees from statute and put them in rule. And most of those fees are aircraft registration fees. And that one did not make it through the session, unfortunately. And that was actually the second time we tried to put that through the session and didn't make it through either time, unfortunately. So these are our general aviation entitlement projects that made up POP 101 that did make it through the session. So we have about $7.9, almost $8 million worth of projects. And so these are all of our smaller projects that are under $1 million each. And so we put this together with our CIP and with the FAA. And what I would note about this budget is we can make small changes to the programs. So oftentimes we do have to make changes with the FAA as long as we stay within the total budget amount. Was there a question? Okay, and Pop 102 that made it through was a software update that Kenji did talk about a little bit. So we did get approved a little over $70,000 to purchase new aircraft registration and airport leasing software. We're really excited about this. We actually tried to put this in the budget last session as well, and it did not make it through. And so it's very much needed. So our aircraft registration software, it's over 20 years old, it's very limited. And for airport leasing, we actually don't have any software right now. So we're running into a lot of challenges. We have to outsource our billing for this to ODOT, and we've had a lot of issues there. So we're hoping to be able to possibly in the future bring that in-house, and this software is a big part of that. Package 90 is the Oak Ridge project. And so the board already did see this project and approve of it. $2.6 million other funds. The majority of it is coming from the Connect Oregon grant, and then the match is from our SOAR grant. The Malino project, so the board has already approved this one as well. It is a little under $3 million, and this one is going to be 95% federally funded. The 5% match is coming from aircraft registration. And so this is for the waterline improvements and the hangar construction at Malino. And now for Aurora, during the session, we added a non-standard crown correction. So we already had the limitation for the Aurora runway rehab project from the last budget, and that was about $2.7 million. And then there was a new FAA determination that's requiring ODAV to correct a non-standard crown at Aurora. So this is going to allow for adequate drainage for safety reasons. So right now there's a flattened crown and it causes water pooling, inadequate drainage, and safety risk. So what we did was we increased the runway rehab project by about $1.28 million to allow for this crown correction. So those are all of the packages that we added to the budget. So I wanted to give you one more summary of the budget that you're going to vote on before you vote on it. So this is the budget broken down by program area and by funding category. So we have a little over 29 million in other funds, 16.8 million in federal funds, and the total funds is $45.8 million. And then also the FTE, that stands for full-time employee. So you can see how it's broken out by program. So the majority, 13.5, is in operations. Half of one of our employees is charged to pavement maintenance. One employee is in the aircraft registration. And so of course we have 15 employees. So before you voted, did you have any questions on the budget?
Any questions? Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Any surprises that I. Okay, thank you, Kristen. So with that, then I just need a motion to adopt this legislatively adopted budget.
I'll make the motion to adopt the legislative adopted budget as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, I will ask Alexis to do the roll call.
Okay, and then that motion was from Steve and the second was from Bill. Okay. Bill Grout,
Aye.
Jim Knight,
Aye.
Sarah Lucas,
Aye.
Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Frank,
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard, excused, Catherine Stevens.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you so much. All
Good,
right,
thank you.
care of our business items. And so now up next is Alexis with the 2026 schedule and topics planning.
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a little bit more dedicated time to discuss where we would like to visit next year, and any topics that we would like to have discussed, any trainings or things that you would like to see in the 2026 time. So I might just open the floor up. I have a couple suggestions as well from staff, if that would also be handy. I know that actually Sarah had given a couple of suggestions at our last meeting on some locations to me. And so we could probably discuss those, but I have broken down into regions. So we have regions like Region 1, McMinnville or Tillamook. Region 2, Eugene, Grants Pass or Roseburg. Region 3 would be Madras. We've held a meeting there in 2023. Redmond or Sisters Eagle Air. And then Region 4 for Grant County, LeGrand, Columbia Gorge, or Hermiston. I think that Sarah mentioned to me possibly the Columbia Gorge as like a possible location that she would like to see, like to have seen. So do any of those locations pique anybody's interest?
All of them.
All of them. I know all of them do, but like, is there any particular one that we would like to visit?
Do any of them, do you see any of them interlocking with some of the goals and developments where we can put feet on the ground and do a vision exercise, so to speak?
Either Pendleton or the Dalles. The Dalles would probably be a good spot.
We just did.
We just had.
Did Pendleton, so the Dalles might be a good spot. And then we just had one in Tug River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of,
The gorge.
Yeah.
Tillamook could be nice.
Be nice.
Yeah, recognizing the comments that were made at the beginning, ensuring that we do visit and see as many different areas and not just the edges of them, but get deeper into them. So Tillamook is a great one. I think that's a great one for a coastal. So yeah, just thinking about that from that perspective of really pushing ourselves to go out and learn about as many Oregon airports as possible, not just stick in Portland and Eugene and do those.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to expand on, my thought was with the Dalles. One, it's an interesting airport because it's physically in Washington, even though it's an Oregon asset. And then I thought perhaps to change up the tour, show some collaboration with ODF's use of the airport with the firefighting that they keep stationed at the Dalles. Alexis did mention there might be some issues with crossing state borders.
It's illegal.
So there's a few things that I don't think mileage would be reimbursed. You just have to stay on the Oregon side for hotels and perhaps have the meeting in Oregon. So that was kind of the thinking
Have the meeting
I
in
had there.
if we did the Dalles, there's a community college in the Dalles that has an aviation maintenance tech program and a
That'd be
big
great.
skills center that we could host at. That would be a good tie-in.
Yeah, because they have that huge facility up top too, that I think is that National Guard?
It's adjacent to the community college. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a multi-state collaborative meeting. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
We've got coastal, we've got Columbia Gorge.
And there was a Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see, we got Region 1, so we got coastal, let's see, Tillamook, the Dalles. So we need Region 2, so that could be Eugene, Grants Pass, Roseburg.
So Eugene held one a couple of years.
Yeah,
ago.
in 2022.
So,
How about Roseburg?
Roseburg.
Roseburg?
Can't speak for Shelley. What about Crestwell? She's had so many projects there that have.
That's true. Good idea. I
That's
like
always
that.
a good.
I don't know if she's open for it. So.
Still be open to it.
Okay.
Yeah. She would probably love to host us. Yeah.
Okay, so Crestwell. Okay. And then I know we do have airports in, Region 3 would be Madras, Redmond, or Sisters Eagle.
Sisters.
Sisters would be good. I mean, especially being a private airport but it's in the NAS. It's a unique airport.
I think Benny would be good to see his operation.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have a good education program there. I don't know if it's
They still do.
still running.
And they'd love to have us.
Yes.
So sisters, okay? And it does, and I do have a note from Andrea that said that they do have a conference room and would be welcome to do a meeting there. So that leaves us, how many locations do we need in a year? Six. So we have 4 currently. Dallas, Tillamook, Crestwell, and Sisters Eagle. So we could do, the furthest out we're currently is the Dalles, that way, and then it looks like possibly
Crestwell.
Far Eastern Oregon. Yes.
If we don't burn.
Oh, Sarah.
Prineville.
Yes, I was just going to suggest perhaps LeGrand. I know we've done Pendleton in the past. LeGrand at the airport doesn't have maybe a large enough facility, but ODOT Region 5 is located in LeGrand. So that is something potentially to reach out to Doug Wright to see if he'd be
Eastern
willing
Oregon's
to
there.
host.
Find a room in Eastern Oregon.
Would be good. Yeah. Or Franklin's good.
Okay, LeGrand, or Prineville, as I can look in to see which location has maybe a better conference setup. And I can go.
During fire season, right?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I was gonna say, let's be mindful of weather and fire season and all of those things.
Yes.
Sisters in Jack.
Maybe not this year, but next year.
Next year.
Yeah, they got a great little,
27.
yeah, they got a great little airport, and then it's actually FAA. It's a test site now, and they're doing NASA testing out there too. It's kind of neat.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just need one last location, and I would probably say, yes. That should be,
That is a
because if
beautiful
we did
facility,
LeGrand,
too.
that's Region
Oh,
4.
yeah. That's a good one.
Sisters is Region 3.
Maybe.
Well, you
Crestwell is
Alternate.
2, and 1 was Tillamook. We could do another coastal.
Another,
Don't we always do one in Salem?
Oh, Salem would be the 6th one.
do you have 2 in this region next year, or just the 1 with Crestwell?
Just the one.
Yeah.
I think we'll have 2 in the Region 4, which is the, in Dallas and LeGrand.
We have one in Salem.
And then we'll have our December meeting's always in Salem.
And then for 2027, Ashland would be great.
Ashland.
Yeah.
2027. Okay,
Or you
So,
mentioned
right.
for, Ashland or Roseburg or something like that, yeah.
yeah, for 27.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, so we have the Dalles, Tillamook, Crestwell, Sisters Eagle, LeGrand, and then Salem as our usual December meeting. Yes,
Put Gold Beach down for 2027 too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
perfect.
They blow us down there.
So,
Is there
we'll
just
probably put a drafted schedule together, and keep in mind fire season and weather related issues on those. And if anything pops up, I'll reach out to probably Chair Stevens and we can make those adjustments.
Eat a big and pancake.
And then, are there any specific topics that we would like covered in the next year?
And I see Stacy on the,
That worrying you?
online. No, what I was going to suggest is, we had a work session, we had a good conversation at the last meeting about a very specific issue. And what I would recommend is, as you think about topics, if there is something that like easements that's going to come up as a topic, think about 1 to 2 months or 1 to 2 months in advance of that, doing some type of educational session with the board. So as you all think about topics or about policies that are going to be coming in for update or those, is there a pre-work that can be done 1 to 2 months in advance for us to ensure that you've made the process for us very good and simplified and easy so that we're all understanding and are not going to have to go through, let's table this till the next meeting discussion.
Right. Including, we need to include it in an executive session.
Including if it needs to be.
If it's like for a specific topic, but I'd even suggest to grow it a little bit, that we have a topic on land use policy and procedures in general for with respect to aviation issues. Right, just in general, talk about it.
What about asking the staff, what would you like the board to consider? What topics would you find it to be important for us?
I think over the next couple of years, we'll have several things. Kenji talked about a couple of during his, during the strategic plan, but I think land use is a good one. BLCD just in the last week and a half has initiated basically a state agency coordination group. That I would say if we did have that topic later in the year would probably make more sense just to make sure we're aligned with DLCD and all the other agencies and on the land use side of things. Then the chapter updates to the Oregon Aviation Plan. So chapter 8 is the economic impact study. I'd have to look back and see exactly what they were, but chapter 3 and 4, I believe, are next on the list. We kind of bounce around a little bit just due to, what we feel is more high priority for chapter updates, but also just available. Everything is also subject to availability from funding from the FAA via our system plan grants. So we could look at kind of educational 101, so to speak, on the different chapters and how we're planning to, and what those updates may look like, if that's helpful.
But what rule updates might be on the table for next year, such as like through the fence or things like that, where we're thinking about making rule changes where we would want to have that as a discussion topic, not that we will decide, but we understanding of it.
Exactly. I was looking at our goals and looking at those and thinking, through the fence is one too. If we're gonna, especially if that's gonna come back.
Certainly affects me a lot.
Yeah. Come back as a rulemaking for the organization. So I think a background on FAA policy, state policy, the agencies' policies on that. And yeah, that's just good for reminder for some and new for others.
Yeah. And Jim, I think one of the things that I'd like to do late this year and early next year, and Steve, for you too, is to put together that funding group, come up with ideas, and then have a report out from that group to the board about some of the ideas and strategies, and then to continue that conversation with the board, and then potentially come up with legislative concepts for 2027 and get board buy-in and all that.
Like kind of a zoomed out, like overall board cadence idea, kind of just we're riffing on what next year looks like. I've been involved with other policy governance where we have kind of a third of the meetings are kind of more administrative, maybe training, education centric. So we're really kind of going through procedural things. And 2/3 of it is more vision oriented because as a policy governance, we're more strategic with input, and it's to the department for the tactical implementation of the kind of strategic ideas. And if you kind of take that between administrative rulemaking, training and development of the board and of the agency, and then the vision casting, a more robust discussion on, as we've kind of gone through all these goals, that's almost half of our meetings right there, to be able to kind of like really unpack a topic at large. And I think that is a great way to consider how you structure an effective board and administration relationship.
Agreed. Yeah. And to that end, especially as on ones that some of us may have good background on, some of us may be just continuing our education on, on goal 5, if the goal of the objective is by the end of 27 to have an emergent aviation technology roadmap with infrastructure policy, economic development, funding, aerospace funding, it'd be great to understand how that might look, what has been learned from others who are doing this. There's, like I said, there's some great states, Colorado, Utah, some others that are really at the forefront of this. What we learn, what would we expect? I think, and doing that, basically doing that groundwork for the board so that by the time December 27 rolls around and you're presenting a package of proposed policies, it's like, yeah, that sounds right in line with what another state is doing that is really beneficial to economic development in their state in these industries. So yeah, just basically providing us and future board members with that, that education base.
Perfect. And I think that's actually what a key component to save money too. My idea of R&D is rip and duplicate.
I'd like to suggest kind of at a lower level than what Steve was just talking about, that at one meeting, staff pick one specific topic of advanced air mobility that is exciting. And somewhere between how to spell it and a deep dive, give us good presentation on what's happening on this particular topic in advanced air mobility that you pick. Say, look, this is exciting. This is something cool. Let me show you a little bit more detail about it.
Yeah.
You know, just on an educational level.
Would it be interesting to get an OEM to talk about it?
Doesn't matter, up to staff, right? But just bring a topic in advanced air mobility and let's go, not deep dive, but just talk about it and seriously have a conversation about it, right?
I think it would also be interesting to bring in some folks that are kind of partners in our aviation system, like our firefighting folks and people who use our airports for a lot of different reasons, and hear from them about how they use our facilities and what are the challenges and what are the awesome things and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can have a little backseat on the location, I would love to go see the Oak Ridge Airport.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah.
I drove by. That's cool.
Kind of nice to get an update from law enforcement now that we've been working so hard. Steve, I know you're a big part of this, but the line of sight issue with drones, now we're moving into a better position than what we currently have. It would be nice for the public, for our constituents to hear what's been that impact. What good has come out of that? That'd be good.
Yeah, and I have the person to do it. He'll just need to get permission from his supervisor. But Kyle Williams out of Eugene Police Department is a fantastic resource. He's one of the leaders at the Law Enforcement Drone Association too, so he has extensive knowledge.
Can you imagine what your future staffing needs are going to be as we're making changes? That would be something that would be really cool to hear, is what's your vision and how do you see that for the needs as we're making advancements and changes in technology? That certainly has to impact or provide opportunities for staff.
Matches up with one of our goals.
Yeah.
One of the other topics that we kind of talked about and seemed to resonate is a group, maybe it's a conference, maybe something like that. I don't think it's practical to do it every year, but maybe biannually, and that kind of catches as board changes and rolls over, that we have a couple of these shared experiences at some of these bigger events. I think one of the things you talked about was taking it out of conceptual PowerPoints or talking points and into the reality of the industry. I think that would be an aspiration to kind of evaluate.
Experience, yeah.
Great. Lots of great ideas. And so you take copious notes. So
It's written down in the notes.
very good. All right. Thanks for that. And so then we'll move on to board updates. So it's the time provided for board members to share news, events, or related information. I'll just kick it off today just with an acknowledgement of our federal partners, and many of the folks that we work with on a daily basis will be now working without pay until the government shutdown is over. So I just wanted to acknowledge their continued work and how much we appreciate them working under these circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else have announcements? Okay. Is there any other business that board members or staff would like to bring up?
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I just wanted to remind board members that there will be trainings that's going to be due by the end of the year. So if you can log into your workday and get on those trainings, I'll probably give a little bit more in-depth on the next.
4 different ones.
I believe it's the cybersecurity and one other one. I'm really blanking on what it is now. But I'll send out an email to everybody as well, just as a reminder. But I just wanted to, as we're coming up on the end of the year, that we have that workday training that's coming.
And if you need help logging on to Workday, like I do every single time.
I will definitely need, I will definitely need help.
I'm very willing to help also.
Usually it's resetting my password.
Yeah.
I totally forgot what day.
So, Chair Stevens?
Yeah.
One thing I want to bring up, and this won't happen until our November meeting, is that we have settled the litigation. And then there will be a statement that we'll have to read during the next board meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have anything?
Oh, I was just gonna say for agenda, it could be now or it could be the other. I'll do the agenda input.
Okay. Any other old business or other business, I should say? All right, agenda input. Steve.
Just, we had that presentation in the executive session and the conversation last session. I just didn't know when that was going to come back up. There was some, I believe, timeliness associated with those. So,
Yeah, and we're currently planning for that next executive session to be in November and have the resolution on the agenda for November.
okay.
That is the current standing on the plan, as I am aware.
It'll be maybe a fairly long virtual work session in November. So
That's fine. It's fine. And again, I mean, I won't speak for everyone, but I'm fine to take that amount of time, especially for those types of work sessions, for us to have the opportunity to have that conversation, discuss, and please feel free to take up at least my time. I'm okay with that.
I'm actually wondering if we need to have a standing executive session planned just in case we need it ahead of our regular session. It seems like we've gotten caught a couple of times where we need to go and get some advice from Stacy before we go into regular session. Okay. There are no other new agenda input items. Our next meeting is November 6th. It's an online work session. And if there's nothing else, then we will adjourn this meeting.
Can I say something? Thanks for allowing me to attend. I like to leave a group like this with a smile. So I used to have a banner tow business, and 9/11 shut that down. You couldn't fly over large families of people anymore. But I also flew a plane that had a sky sign underneath, billboard, rotated through. A gentleman contacted me and wanted me to fly to Shady Cove. And he was going to be with his girlfriend in a field at night, and he was going to propose to her. So he wanted to show the sign. I said,